Hey, good morning. Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. I am here with Joe Holland, President of Property Management Systems Incorporated. Joe, how you doing this morning?
Good morning, Chelsea. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. And if you are interested in an HOA or condo, or have any interest at all in those, this is something you need to listen to. Joe's been kind of come up and give us an update on some really important issues that have kind of come up recently. So first off, for those who may not be familiar with PMSI, kind of give us a brief background, because you guys have been around for quite a while.
Yeah, we started in 1960. And we've just grown slowly over the years. We used to have an office on Highland Drive. We grew out of that. It was about 1,500 square feet. And about 10 years ago, we bought a 14,000 square foot building on 39th South and about 30 East. We currently manage about 6,500 condominium units. And we have about 600 that we manage here in Park City.
All right. And you could safely say that you are probably the oldest property management company in the state of Utah, or one of them. So you guys have been around for quite a while, and some of the places you manage include, the Gateway downtown,
the Parky Gateway.
Yeah, let's name a couple in Park City.
Fox Point, the townhomes at New Park, Pinebrook Point, Cedar Ridge. I think those are the main ones.
Yeah. So you're definitely, you have that presence here in Park City as well. So to start off, like I was saying, if you live in an HOA or condo or have an interest in one, you want to hear what Joe has to say. So first off, Joe, Senate Bill 167 from the 2011 state legislature, it made a really significant changes to the Homeowners Association insurance policies. So tell us more about that.
In a homeowners association, there's the association's policy, which covers all of the common areas. Then there's a policy that you have to have, which is called an HO6, which covers the items that's not covered in the association's policy. And it's a very, very important policy. That policy is called an HO6. Oftentimes, there's the perception, and you hear this a lot about condos, that it's worry-free living and that you own from the paint in, and the HOA maintains everything else. That's not the truth. Oftentimes what you'll read in these documents is that like a pipe that runs solely and exclusively to that unit, that pipe is that owner's responsibility. The sewer line, the electrical, all of that is the responsibility of that owner. And so if that backs up, or if a water line breaks while you're on Christmas Eve, you're responsible to maintain that. And up until this bill, it would be the owner's HO6 policy that would repair damage to their unit or the unit below, if it's a stacked unit. But now we had a lot of problems with that. An example that I'll give you is we had a challenged individual in one of our complexes in Salt Lake, and his father was the owner, and he had lived there for about a week, and he decided to put towels down the toilet.
Oh dear.
And he left. It flooded.
Oh no.
Terrible. It was a 4-story building, and he was on the top floor.
Oh no.
Leaked all the way down to the
terrible.
bottom.
What happened?
This individual did not have an HO6 policy.
No.
So the association is not responsible to cover those type of items for those people that had the damage.
Okay.
And so they either have to go and sue that owner or have to pay for it themselves if they don't have the HO6.
Okay.
So this happened. These owners had to fix it up themselves. There's some lawsuits after that owner to pay for those items, but a month and a half later, it happened again. He did it again. And after that, he did it one more time.
No. Oh my gosh.
So
that's insane.
It is insane.
Oh.
So the bill for that, the tab, I think we figured it's around $80,000 to $100,000. All of these owners were stuck having to pay for those items. And they've seen that a lot that's been a real problem in the association. So what this bill does is it takes the onus on the owner to pay for those items and puts it on the association. So if the owner does that, the association covers that tab.
Okay. Okay.
So that there's no question as to whether or not that owner has the insurance or not. It's picked up regardless through the HOA's policy. And that was a change, and that's a big change.
Okay. Well, that's really good to know. Like you said, with those important changes coming about that a lot of people should be aware of if you weren't familiar with that yet.
And the HO6 policy you get now, you want to make sure and check your HO6 policy, your owner's policy.
Okay.
Because those changes should decrease the cost, your premium for that policy to about half.
All right. Well, let's go on then. And talking about House Bill 104 from the same legislative session, it requires homeowners associations to register with the Department of Commerce, and there are a lot of consequences if you don't. Let's talk about that.
Title companies were having a real problem with getting a hold of homeowners associations and finding out when they're closing a unit and when there's a new buyer and seller, finding out how much they owe, what the rules and regulations are, that type of thing. Not particularly with big management companies, but with smaller associations that manage themselves. It was almost to the point where they had to go and knock on the door to find out what Mrs. Jones owed on Unit 4. Real problem. And so to alleviate that, working with the title companies, you have to register your association with the Department of Commerce. You have to list your president, your vice president, secretary, treasurer, who they are, their names and their phone numbers, and their property manager if they have one. There's consequences if you don't do that and if you don't keep it up to date. The consequences are, number one, if you're going to file liens on if you're filing liens on your unit, you're not allowed to file liens. You cannot file a lien if that registry list is not up to date. The other item is that if they can't get a hold of you, the title company can just go ahead and process that closing without figuring out if that person owes any money. And so that could be a huge loss to the association. If that person owed thousands of dollars, they're just out because they didn't register their HOA. Wow. So it could be a real problem.
Oh, certainly. So if that's something that you're not aware of, take that into consideration. And so moving on now and talking about lead-based paint, what are requirements when it comes to that? Because I know that's kind of been a big issue with many buildings and such. Tell me about that.
If your property was built before 1978, there was a law that was passed, a federal law that says that you have to be certified to make repairs in those units. And last time I checked, we were the only management company in Utah to have that certification.
Wow.
So we're very proud of that. But if you go into a unit pre-78 and you're going to do more than 6 square feet of repairs in that unit or that building, you have to be certified. And if you're not certified, there's a fine. And I think the last time I read, the fine for not being certified and making a repair on one of these is $10,000. So I think it's very important that you make sure that your property management company or the contractor you've hired has that certification. The problem with lead-based paint is even small amounts causes problems to kids and even adults. So it's very important to make sure that you're trained how to correctly deal with lead-based paint so you don't cause problems for other people. And you definitely want to avoid the fines.
Yes, certainly. So thank you so much for the update. I do appreciate it. And like we mentioned before, such important information to know. Where can people go to get in touch with your organization? Our email address is www.pmsystems.net. Okay. And our phone number is 801-262-3900. And our address is the same. It's 262 East, 3900 South in Salt Lake. All right. Very good, Joe. Thanks so much for coming up this morning. We do appreciate it. And like I was saying, it's always good to get those updates because sometimes people just are not aware of them. So thank you very much for coming up. We do appreciate it. Thanks, Chelsea. And that is Joe Holland with Property Management Systems Incorporated. Remember to go online. You can check them out. Get more information if you are interested in working with them at all. We'll be right back here with more on the Mountain Morning Show.